Joker Folie Deux just released, and already, fans and critics alike have put aside their differences to completely shit on it. The first Joker was a smash hit, with worldwide ticket sales grossing over $1 billion. The character had already garnered a cult following after Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight, with many idolizing and mischaracterizing his anti-establishment views. When the 2019 film showed a more grounded and tragic portrayal of Joker, fanboys latched on and saw the movie as the representation they had always wanted. People given the short end of the stick by society, waiting to snap. A warning of what happens when the nice guy always finishes last. As with Heath Ledger, Phoenix's performance led many to overlook a lot of the first film's subtlety. Arthur Fleck is a victim of abuse, poverty, and poor mental health care. The people he kills aren't necessarily sympathetic, and it's why he draws such a following, both on and off screen. In politically turbulent times for Gotham, the death of 3 rich Wall Street guys makes a statement. The little guy, finally tired of being stepped on, is rising up. He says as much during his speech in the climax.
If it was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me.
But his series of killings are all personal. The mother that abused him, the coworker that got him fired, and Murray Franklin, his former idol who ridiculed him on live television. His mention of Thomas Wayne hits the right notes, because the audience knows him as a billionaire in a neglected city. But once again, his grudge is personal. Arthur believes himself the bastard son of Wayne, purposefully abandoned for posterity. He does recognize how the initial murder connects to his status, to the plight of Gotham as a whole, but only after others drew that conclusion themselves. Fleck is willing to accept the role that others have created around his actions. He's even proud of it. But in the end, it's not the work of a revolutionary mastermind. He's a disturbed individual, given the chance to be a showman. Not to say that there's nothing to take away from the film. The points the movie makes about mental health and the systemic effects of poverty are legitimate. Arthur is a victim, someone who deserved better, but he's a case study, not a role model. Not every protagonist has to be one. The takeaway is not to neglect those individuals who may slip through the cracks or go down a dark path. To understand that mental illness isn't always pretty, but no less deserving of care, and that problems run deeper than therapy can solve, with material conditions limiting people's options. However, the 2019 movie is still seen as an incel's Black Panther, the ultimate liberation fantasy for the bullied and downtrodden. I mean, there was a serious fear that it would inspire mass shootings, to the point of driving people away from the theaters, and so has it kept that reputation for the last few years. But on the production side of things, the financial success caused the cast and crew to rethink the movie's one-off status. I mean, if one movie can make $1 billion, 2 movies can make $2 billion. Creative vision and artistic integrity be damned. But director Todd Phillips and lead actor Joaquin Phoenix had a dream. Literally, Phoenix dreamed one night of his character on stage, telling jokes and singing, inspiring him to make a musical sequel. That concept, a Joker musical, stuck out among everything else, and the duo found it too irresistible to ignore. Originally, they envisioned it as a proper Broadway musical, but COVID-19 made them rethink the approach, opting for a traditional movie instead. The other piece of the puzzle was the inclusion of fan favorite Harley Quinn, another key character in the Joker mythos. Bringing Lady Gaga on as Harley, or Lee as she's known in the film, the team sought to break the mold, to give a legitimate reason to explore Fleck's character again. After all, the first movie wrapped up everything with a nice bow, so to capture that again, they needed to have a good reason to bring us back to that story. And on October 4th, 2024, their vision finally debuted on the silver screen, to disastrous results. It may turn around by the time you see this video, but the opening weekend saw comedically low reviews and even lower turnout. People hated the musical aspect.
Stop singing!
But hated what was done to Arthur's character even more. On the contrary, I think that it's a perfect bookend to the Arthur Fleck we got to know in the first movie. Sure, it ruins the Joker people thought they knew, the political Joker that was taking a stand against the system, showing Gotham's elites what for. But where the first movie explores a failed system through Arthur's perspective, this movie confronts its predecessor's reputation, this image of Joker, and it starts doing so from the very beginning. The opening of Joker 2 sees a Looney Tunes-inspired short, where Joker is menaced by his own shadow, constantly reveling in the fame, causing mischief. The shadow eventually kidnaps and replaces the real comedian, masquerading as him on live television. While his real self tries to fight back, he's beaten down by the police, while the shadow slips away into the night. The cartoon gives way to the actual movie, where we see an imprisoned Arthur Fleck awaiting trial for his actions that fateful night. The cult following he had before has grown exponentially, as the media sensationalized his murders, with books, movies, and extensive TV coverage. Throughout the film, both Arkham and the courthouse are surrounded by angry crowds, wearing clown masks and holding up signs to free Joker. He's a hero to these people, and his appearance in court will be his grandest show yet. But the most tangible evidence of his fame is Lee, a fellow inmate who idolizes Arthur. Seeing herself in him, the two are quick to fall in love. And for the first time in a long while, he's happy. Someone is there for him that won't scold or belittle him, but loves him for who he is. But she keeps trying to convince him that Joker is the real him, not this persona of Arthur Fleck. A running theme in the movie is whether or not Arthur and Joker are the same person. There's the argument that they're split personalities, that Arthur died and became Joker, or that Joker is just a representation of Arthur at his lowest. His defense in the trial is that he suffers from a split personality. Lee constantly refers to the real you, and his behavior is drastically different when medicated. It's a running question that the film's plot hinges on, but it's also a reflection of how audiences saw the original film. The Joker that people idolize versus the flawed man he actually is. The character people want him to be, or the character the film portrays. The film's climax answers that question definitively, as Arthur comes face to face with Gary, a character from the original, after Lee and the roaring crowds push him to don the makeup, to return to his persona of Joker. His triumphant return is undercut by horror. Seeing a man who actually cared about him, reduced to tears by what his friend has become, makes him question the love he has now. Gary liked him when he was Arthur, before all the death and theatrics. Would Lee feel the same if he went back to that? If he found happiness beyond Joker? And ultimately, the answer is no. Confronted with the pain that Joker has brought upon himself and others, he gives it all up, admits that there's no greater plan. It was all personal, the actions of Arthur Fleck, not some show put on by Joker. The punchline is that it wasn't a joke. He's greeted by booing, rejection, and apathy from his supporters. That's not the man they looked up to, the man they modeled themselves after. Lee abandons him, not able to love Arthur Fleck for who he is. And I won't spoil the rest of the ending, but the consequences only get worse. The first movie sees Arthur Fleck beaten down until he snaps and becomes Joker, while Folie Deux sees him leave Joker behind, as it didn't make his life any better. He's still abused, laughed at, taken for granted by those he loves. When he makes it to the courthouse, he's reduced to a monster, a child, or a flat image of himself. All he's accomplished is turning away the few people in his life that might have cared about him, the real him. The cinematography does a good job of reflecting this as well, with shots and imagery that parallel the original movie. Folie à Deux is an answer to the fans that missed the subtleties of the original. Lashing out won't fix your problems, nor does it address the real issues that put you there. You're right to be angry about how society treats those with mental illness, about how lacking resources gives you nowhere to turn. But taking that anger out on people around you, on personal gripes, will only cause you more pain and isolation. It's the logical conclusion of Joker's ending, just made a bit more obvious this time. As for the musical part of it, it was alright. Certainly could have used fewer songs. I guess the tap dancing scene was pretty cool. Thank you all for watching. I made this kind of quick and impromptu. I had just seen the movie and was surprised to find everyone hated it. So here's my 2 cents. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions for the next video. Till then, see ya!